Hi everyone, Zachary Lui here from Toronto Qigong. Today I'd like to talk to you about the element of wood and how it can be associated with your Qigong practice. So let's actually get into all these associations, what wood represents. I'm going to really just give you a nice chart form of it, and then I will actually explain it bit by bit. First off, wood is connected to the springtime, and it is connected to the eyes from a body standpoint, nails, and your tendons. From a psycho-emotional level, it is connected to anger, irritability, and stress on the negative spectrum, but it is also connected to strategic planning, compassion, kindness, decisiveness, courage, and perspective from a positive standpoint. The animals associated with wood are the azure dragon and the ox. From a time organ standpoint, it is related to 1 to 3 a.m. The function of wood in terms of its traditional Chinese medicine applications would be about smooth flow of qi and just really getting things to move. So on that context then, we have a nice little brief summary chart of what wood is. Now let's actually get into explaining what it actually means in terms of all its associations. And when we're thinking about all these things, it's a lot when we break it down. It can actually take quite a few hours. And giving you a nice summary sheet is like, oh, here, I can actually use this in my Qigong practice. So to begin, spring. As you all know, if you're in Canada, it's winter right now. We got a few months before spring. So this whole topic of springtime, things getting moving, it's actually timely because in the next few months we're going to be moving into Chinese New Year, and that's really when things start to shift. Christmas is very close to us. That's the time of when things are at its complete yin. When we get into moving into springtime around January, that's when things really get kicking up, even though it doesn't look like life force is moving at all. It's all pent up in the seeds. So springtime, its correlation again is about wood. Why is that? It's a seed of potential life. And when we move into life, we always start at an embryo stage. So when we're working with wood, it's about really that seed of I'm pent up, things are building, really like generating, and I'm about to propel myself up through the earth and grow as big as I can. That's a pretty good metaphor in terms of actually trying to achieve things in your life. You need more energy, go work on the wood phase. And really building up that energy to then burst at the seams. From a time perspective, liver and wood is all about time because trees really see everything. We can look, we can cut down a tree, we can look at its rings, and when we look at the rings, we can see, oh, this year is dated, and we can go forward, and we can go backwards. So when we think of wood and liver in particular, we think of time. Time in the past, time in the future, time in the present. And when I want to go do things and be decisive in life, I really need to make a choice. Which way do I go? Left or right? Do I go forward? Do I go back? All these types of things, particularly on these choices, it's all about change. And when we think of change, we think of wind. And that can be pathogenic from a Chinese medicine standpoint. But as an overall metaphor, life is change, and when we're not stagnant and we're not really pent up from that expansion and things aren't resisting us, we're changing all the time. Our cells change, our perspectives change, our thoughts change, even who we are change over the years. So when we can really adapt to the times, we're always changing, and we won't get pent up and stressed and angry when we cannot. It's always about relatively, how do I plan for things? What's happening in the future? I want to do this, but there's a certain time consideration there. So when we think of that, that's really what that liver and time aspect of things happen. So when we're working in Qigong then, if we're stressed, we're going to start doing a lot more moving forms, because how do we engage the tendons? Well, we do moving and twisting motions to work on those side meridians, being the gallbladder and the liver on the inner parts of the legs. And when we're doing these twisting motions, well, I'm going to start to feel like I'm bending and I'm expanding and I'm twisting away things, because I'm moving things out of my system. I'm helping the chi move and get that free flow instead of being stagnant and stuck and pent up. Then let's move into the animal associations then. From an animal association standpoint, the liver is connected to ox. And the ox is a big, brody animal. It's really like, okay, it's a cow essentially. And when we're looking at a metaphor for a cow, you think, well, how does a cow even connect to the liver? Well, when we break it down, the cow or the ox has the tendency to really perceive everything from a greater perspective. And then it's very slow. But when it's slow, it really sees things, it's observant of everything, and then it makes a choice to move a certain direction. And when it moves, it just keeps moving forward and forward. Well, that's a nice analogy for the liver, because in terms of that then, we see this whole movement of going steadily forward. We've made a decision in life, and we're going to go forward on that. Also, from a physical standpoint, the cartilage on oxen or oxes, that can be representative of the nails, and they have quite big horns, at least in Asia, in the wild, and we can really use those as physical analogies for the nails, and cows generally have good eyesight also. So from a Chinese medical analogy standpoint, they have all the things that represent the liver quite well, so why wouldn't we use that? So hence why when you go to a Chinese restaurant and you see those zodiacs, now you can say, well, the ox is correlated with January, and I understand. And that's part of the Chinese organ clock. So we can say January is an ox month. It can also be a liver month. So there you go from a practical standpoint. And when we're, again, applying this to Qigong, we're smooth and rhythmic, we're bending going forward, and when we're doing all these things, the liver's going to feel really nice, but it's also a great analogy, again, from just moving forward in life. When we think of a human analogy now, we think of the general from the liver standpoint. And the general is about, again, strategic planning, how do I do things, and I have the courage to go into my life and expand and see things for what they're done. It's very militaristic, it's a general. But when we look at the Chinese character for army, we also see, in particularly for the general, we see the liver, because we say if you are courageous, you have a good liver. If you are decisive, you have a good gallbladder. Both are wood organs from Chinese medicine. So we start seeing these things on, well, how do I move forward? How do I make these plans? What is needed to go here? It's not just I see things and go forward with my eyes, but I'm actually looking and perceiving things from a bigger picture. And then, finally, from a Qigong standpoint, I would say, past all the associations there, we have, going back to the animal, we have the dragon. Dragon is about this bending. It's a cardinal direction, at least in this context, and it's connected to the east. East is where the wood energy rises, because it's about to grow. And the dragon's a nice metaphor, again, because it bends, it twists, and it has that free movement to go up to heaven and really have that yang energy move up. Well, when we're working with the liver and wood, we're thinking about yang energy moving up from the earth, bursting from the seams, going upwards to the sky. And that really starts to make a metaphor for the Hun. And the Hun, past its religious context, is, which most people would, at least in the West, be like, oh, this doesn't make sense. Again, just view it as a metaphor. The Hun is what we call the heavenly spirit, and that heavenly spirit is the thing that connects you to the divine. You move forward in life, it's your aspirations, things like that. And when we dream, that's the Hun collecting from the ethereal realms, knowledge from things that can help you. So again, life ambitions, goals, things like that. So when we have goals, we can go forward in life. I'm not going to be stagnant, I'm not going to be stuck. And with all that said, this is a really brief overview of the 5 elements wood phase, which is a little more in depth. However, if people are interested, I may do a much longer video in the future, or even just a lecture if people are interested in that. So, I hope you all enjoyed this. For more information, go to Toronto Qigong and subscribe to the YouTube channel below for the weekly videos. Thanks, and I'll see you all at Toronto Qigong.